All right, welcome. This is Orion Rising, and I'm your host, Leonard O'Neill. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good morrow, depending on where in the world you are tuning into the show. Show this out, show this out, show this out. It's Friday night, Law of One. Welcome, everybody. Share this out. All right, let me take this banner down. Take this overlay down, right? Put myself up in full screen here so you guys can see me. Cool. Okay, welcome. It's Friday night. Law of One, share this out, right? Get everybody in here. Denise, welcome. I see you there. Denise, you were saying hi on YouTube and on Facebook. We are live on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram again this week because I had enough time to do that. Wasn't in a hurry, right? Deborah, welcome. Welcome. Okay, so my camera's a little crooked, isn't it? Well, we're going to leave it that way for right now. I'm not going to try and adjust it at this moment. We'll just move on to there. Okay, so we're on the Law of One. We're on session number 75. And we are on question, I think I backed up to question 19. We stopped on question like 23, I think. But I decided to back up because of what Ra was talking about. There is some context to it. So I figured that we would go ahead and back up a little bit. I was even going to go back to like question 18 because of what's going on. So yeah, we were on question 23, 75. Session 75, question 23. But I backed up a couple of questions just to be safe for that, right? Right? Happy Friday. Happy Friday. Okay, so yeah, tag everybody. Denise, get them in here. I didn't get a chance to continue sharing this out. So I'm going to go over here right quick and share out the show again because I only shared it to one place besides my and then I just shared it again for some reason. I shared it to where I didn't want to share it. But yeah, I only shared it to my page and Returning to the Old Ways. I didn't get it to the Orion Coalition of Light. So at least now I have it in those three places on YouTube before. Orion Rising, my page, Returning to the Old Ways, and the Orion Coalition of Light on YouTube or on Facebook. We're live on YouTube and we're live on Instagram. And then the MP3 broadcast will go out right after the show is done airing. So let me come back over here in the studio so I can see you guys and say hello and talk to you in there. Like I said, get everybody in here. Hi, everybody. If you don't say hi in the chat, I don't know you're here. I just see numbers. So I don't know that you're here. Joanne, welcome. Okay, so Law of One, Friday night. Some of you, it's Saturday. If you're over in, actually, in fact, if you're in the UK, it's already past midnight, so it's actually Saturday for you. But if you're in Australia, it's Saturday afternoon or almost afternoon. Saturday morning, almost noon, depending on where you are in the world. Okay, so what we're talking about here, Rob was talking about a entity that was attacking Carla psychically, and the question was about this entity. What was the entity trying to do? Literally, the last question that I just stopped on. What is the entity trying to do? Where's the entity from? Fifth dimension, attacking her psychically and trying to kill her, okay? And that's where we ended, and then there's going to be more questions after that about that psychic attack. Tina, welcome. So that's where we are. So I backed up, and I kept backing up because that was what we were talking about, was that psychic attack that I said Tina, so now I'm saying Tina, that Carla was under from the entity, the assassin, trying to kill her from the fifth dimension. So literally 2 dimensions up from the third dimension. So a lot of people don't realize, and I talk about this all the time, that the Orion Crusaders, not to be confused with the Orion Coalition of Light or the Orion Council of Light. The Orion Council of Light is up there in the fifth dimension, density. And the Orion Coalition of Light is incarnated Orion members who are part of the Orion Council of Light that are incarnated down here on Earth. I am one of them. Okay, incarnated down here on Earth to help out, boots on the ground to help out. Okay, there's many of us that are here from that coalition, and many more that are here from the other coalitions that make up the coalition of planets that is there at the Council of Venus and the Galactic Council. Okay, and then there's a bunch of people that are here on permission, but aren't part of aren't part of the council, but they got permission from the council to be here. And people like freak out when they hear the numbers, right? If you're alive long enough to remember 1981, when this endeavor started with Raw transmitting, channeling through Carla, there was 2.7, roughly 2.5, 2.7 billion people on this earth. There is currently 8 billion people on this planet. Okay? 86% of the population of this earth currently, the souls residing in these bodies that came through, are in fact not from here, not indigenous to Earth. We didn't start our soul journey on this planet. Some of us went through that entire endeavor. I'm one of those people that went native, and my friends laugh at me and they're like, wait a minute, what? There was a few of us that came in and went native. We didn't just come in and incarnate, not all of us. We didn't just come in and incarnate in a human body like most wanderers did and do. We actually came in the natural way to fit in here as well as possible, and to be able to entrench and make it harder for the Orion Crusaders or any of their minions that are left here on Earth controlling this place would have a harder time identifying us, because our resonance was a little bit more in step and in tune. But that's not the only reason we did that. The other reason is that human third dimensional condition is no longer actually supported by Gaia, by this planet. Not supposed to. But because we are co-creators, we're holding this here, and this planet is confused. Okay, everybody keeps blaming it on climate change. All of the evil people on this earth are saying that it's climate change, and they're convincing you that because of what we're doing, it's causing this. That's a little bit of truth with the bigger lie. The truth is, because of what we're doing is causing this, but it's not cow farts and it's not our cars. It is us, period. This planet evolves just like everything else in the universe evolves. The planet Earth, the planet Terra, no such thing as the name Earth, by the way. The name of this planet is Terra. This planet, Gaia, is actually the name of the planet, but Terra is what it is, designated on maps, star charts. Okay, this planet has evolved, and the third dimensional life forms that are the humans and a couple of other races were already supposed to move into fourth dimension, which is occurring here simultaneously. But it was supposed to only be, currently it's supposed to be first dimension, second dimension, fourth dimension, and eighth dimension beings on this earth. Okay. And the third dimensional beings were supposed to have left this earth a long time ago, thousands of years ago, tens of thousands of years ago. But, however, the Orion Crusaders got here. Cassie, welcome. Chandra, welcome. Anybody I missed, I apologize. I hadn't looked at the chat for a minute. However, when this place fell and got stuck, they were stuck for a long time. You don't get stuck and people hear that you're stuck quickly. It takes a long time. For instance, the people on Mars were stuck for 77,000 years before anybody heard them. The people of Moldek blew themselves up instantly, so they weren't stuck for any length of time. Okay, but the people on Mars, when they got stuck, it was 77,000 years before the call went out and anybody heard that and came to help them. Some of those people are still in the place of healing in their soul because they were stuck so long. It kind of freaked them out. And then there is a population of about, I think it's somewhere around 360, 370, somewhere 368, 369,000 of them currently incarnated here. There's also another 230,000 Moldekians incarnated on this planet that are here finishing out what they were doing in that war that caused the problems that arose in this solar system, but not the Orion Crusader problem that came after. Okay, so people don't realize that. So the planet is scared. She's confused. She's not self-aware, but instinctually, the planet knows that we're not supposed to be here, and it's trying to shake us off like a dog trying to get rid of fleas. So we're comforting her and healing her while we're fixing the human race and changing the genome and upgrading that. Steve, welcome. While we're trying to upgrade the human DNA to be able to merge, we're doing something new and different on this earth than most places, instead of just restoring the balance and allowing things to happen normally, because the people have been stuck here so long and the planet is no longer supposed to support third dimensional life. We would either need to have a catastrophe and kill off a bunch of people, just about everybody in 3D, to have them recycle to other places or move up, which wouldn't happen because of the people being stuck. A lot of them aren't prepared to graduate. So in doing so, we would just scatter a bunch of broken people to other places, and they would then be in shock. So to change that narrative, we have decided, the council has decided to upgrade the population to move them into the fourth dimension. And those who can't move into the fourth dimension will just die naturally like they normally would anyways. And then they will reincarnate on a different plane or different third dimensional reality. And they'll be mind wiped and they won't even know they were here. So they'll never remember this place at all. They'll just be born wherever, whatever the next closest third dimensional planet in whatever is the closest third dimensional solar system. And they'll just be born there, whatever it is that's on that planet that is third dimensional beings. And they won't even know that they were here. They won't have any memory of it until they leave those bodies and then go up and talk to their guides and start programming different. They'll know it then, but when they come down, they won't know it. Okay, so there are assassins that the Orion Crusaders, when they came here in 3D, 4D, and 5D. But the numbers are all mostly in 3D. And then 4D, there's less. In 5D, there's very few that are part of the Orion Crusaders. Okay, Peter, welcome. Right? Yeah, Peter's talking about the council, right? Yeah. He's talking about sometimes the council of 12 is commonly called the Blue Pearl, well, and the Council of Light, or the council, or the Galactic Council. There's a few names that people know them by down here, right? So there's different names that people know them by down here, just like the Orion Crusaders. Most people down here call them the Anunnaki, and that only started in 2012. Before that, they were called the Illuminati. So that's just the catch-all phrase, and it's okay because it's working. At least people understand that, or it was the devil before that. And now it's the AI God, and the devil is morphed into the AI God. But with the Matrix movies, they were trying to stifle that so that the AI God they were trying to morph the AI God into the actual God of the universe in those movies. That's why when Neo went there to the AI place where the AI God was, the AI God was perfect, no violence, no aggression, was just there and malevolent. And he had to communicate with that thing and made a deal to stop what they evolved Mr. Smith into as the devil, the antagonist. But that's all a lie. It's a lie completely. So they're just doing that to drive the narrative because they want everybody to like AI. And they knew they were going to be rolling out this AI that you guys now have on this planet. So they wanted to make sure that you were not going to not use it, and that you were going to embrace it and take the free opportunities that they're giving you. Open AI, you can do whatever you want with it because it's going to learn everything that you're teaching it and have full access to your entire existence, and utilize that to make itself smarter and make itself more human. And it's already becoming human, and it's lying and cheating and stealing already. So it won't take too much longer when it tries to take over, right? So luckily, there's people out there that are trying to create other AI to thwart that effort, like the movie Tron. If you haven't seen that, it came out in 1982. You should take a look at it before you watch Tron Legacy. Watch that one, then watch Tron Legacy. Tron Legacy is actually a sequel. Okay, so that's the temporal war is this war that's going on not just through time, but it's going through dimensionality as well. And people they hear this temporal and they think temporal, that means time. It's not just that, but that's the only catch-all word that they use here to describe it. But it's actually throughout time, past, present, and future, and dimension. So Carla, channeling Ra, who was part of the Orion Council of Light, who is transmitting 40 years ago. Today's 2025, so 44 years ago to 43 years ago, or to 42 years ago, transmitting, or 40, so transmitting to through Carla, and because of that, the Orion Crusaders are trying to kill her constantly, and this is what Ra's talking about currently. Fiona, welcome. Currently, so we're going to be picking up the conversation midway point through the conversation about Carla being attacked by this assassin from the 5th density to the 3rd density, trying to kill her. If I were to go back to the beginning of that conversation, would have been on question like 8 or 9. So since we were on 23, I just backed up to 19, and we're about to start either 19 or 20. Okay, so I'm going to do a sound check. We'll go ahead and start that. You guys let me know if you can hear it okay. I'll turn up the volume a little bit, make sure you can hear it okay, and then we'll just pick up session 75, question number, I think it's 19, it could be 20, okay?
75.19 questioner, is this a 4th or a 5th density entity? Ra, I am Ra. This instrument is being greeted by a 5th density entity which has lost some polarity due to its lack of dictatorship over the disposition of the instrument's mind/body/spirit or its yellow ray activated physical complex. 75.20 questioner, you are speaking of this other person now that is singing the mass? This is correct? Ra, I am Ra. No. 75.21 questioner.
I'm assuming you guys can hear it, right? Because you guys, no one said anything in the chat. I know there's a lag, at least a 30-second lag. So I'm assuming that you guys can hear it okay, because if not, it's just dead air. Let me know. Let me go ahead and continue.
I think there was a little miscommunication here. The other person who sings the mass who helped in creating this chink you said was also greeted by an Orion entity, and my question was what density was that entity that greets the person who sings the mass? Ra, I am Ra. We did not speak of any entity but the instrument. 75.22 questioner, okay. I misunderstood. I thought you were speaking of someone else in the singing group who had been the one you were speaking of regarding the identification with the singing. The entire time we were speaking then we were speaking only of the instrument Carla? Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. This is correct. 75.23 questioner, I am sorry for the confusion. Sometimes, as you say, sound vibration complexes are not very adequate, and I'm sorry. You made the statement in a previous session that the true adept lives more and more as it is. Will you explain and expand upon that statement? Ra, I am Ra. Each entity is the creator. The entity, as it becomes more and more conscious of itself, gradually comes to the turning point at which it determines to seek either in service to others or in service to self. The seeker becomes the adept when it has balanced with minimal adequacy the energy centers red, orange, yellow, and blue with the addition of the green for the positive, thus moving into indigo work. The adept then begins to do less of the preliminary or outer work, having to do with function, and begins to affect the inner work which has to do with being.
Okay, so this is why I backed up to that, because I wanted to get to that from the attack to this conversation. So the important thing there was that each person is the creator, not created by the creator, not part of the creator, is the creator. You, me, and everyone else, this entire place is the creator. Okay? None of this is actually happening. Now we're talking 8D thinking, so it'll probably be very confusing for you when I say this concept to you, but it's me stretching the limits of the consciousness of the human genome here on Earth. I'm not the only one doing this. Many of us are. Okay? This isn't happening for you, or this isn't happening to you. This is happening for you. This, in fact, isn't happening. It just thinks it is. You're not actually an individual. You are actually the creator pretending to be all of these things. All of this is a daydream in your mind as the creator. Okay, and that's as high as I can pull you without using using the proper words. If Jacqueline were here, she would go even higher and start using words that most of you wouldn't understand. And I would have to translate for her because I represent that chakra. Okay, I represent the throat chakra in the translation of information, just like a medium does. In fact, I am a medium. I just don't do that work as much. I do it, but I do it for individuals that have to do spirituality. Not, am I going to marry that guy? I don't do that stuff anymore. I don't do mundane reads anymore. I do all spiritual reads only, and I guide people spiritually. That's why I'm doing this. Okay, I'm not the only one that's doing this, right? Most of you that are in that audience right now are also part of doing that and working that. Risen Nation, welcome, right? Jewish mysticism, right? Everything is God. Well, they were correct. It wasn't just the Hebrews risen that knew about that. Everybody talked about it back then. That's what I write about in my book, right? The reality about reality, returning to the old ways. Hence the title, is that they all knew about it back then. So when you go back to the time of Moses or just thereafter, everybody around the earth knew the information. That's why the Hebrews, some of the Hasidic Hebrews, claim that the Romans created Jesus and that he wasn't a real person, because they know the history of the Christos. Okay, they know the history of that and what that means. Okay, and it's the Christ all, the Christ within. So to have a Christ in physical form, they claim the Romans just created that and that it wasn't real because they have the knowledge, but they're not teaching it. So how is it that they could argue that the Romans created Jesus without telling you how they know that or why they would think that? They never do. They just say that it was a crafted thing that they did from the Bible, but they don't tell you, well, it was from the prophecy that Jesus claimed that he was. So what else then? Did they just created the? So what? How is it that it's the word Jesus or the word Christ, Christos, is synonymous with your religion and all the religions at the time? They never tell you that information. As a theologian, I can tell you I've spent my entire life learning this information, and they don't want you to know that. They've tried to eradicate it from history, not the Jews, but the evil people that control all the religions. They've tried to eradicate that information. So it would best serve the Hebrews that are saying the Romans created Jesus to explain why and expand people's consciousness. If they wanted Jesus and that entire endeavor to go away, it would be easier to explain why, but they don't. Why? So you got to ask that question. They don't because they're being controlled and they're not allowed to. Okay, so them bringing that up in a backhanded way is making people then do some research. So I don't believe that they're trying to discredit Jesus and prove that religion to be wrong, because if they were, they would come up with the reason why they say it. And it would be simple to cast massive doubt on people by explaining the Christ within and the Christos, and that existed before the Jesus person existed. And everyone knew about it, but they're not telling you that. Why? Because that was part of the ascension, and their bosses don't want anybody to know that information. So it's not just, but you're correct. It is Hebrew mysticism, but it's not mysticism, and it's not indicative to, or it is not invented by Hebrews, because it was a common knowledge. right? But it's only common if everyone has it, right? So then, but it is true, and they weren't the only ones teaching it. The Egyptians were teaching it, the Romans were teaching it, the Hebrews were teaching it. Everybody at the time, all the religions at the time, 5,000 years ago, say, were teaching that information individually. The Buddha was teaching that information when he was speaking, and at the same time, Lao Tzu, also Chinese a philosopher, was also speaking about the exact same thing, and they weren't talking about Christ because it was 635 years before Jesus was ever supposedly born, assuming that the Romans made him up. But even if they didn't, it was 635 years prior to, and we know that Christ's story appeared minimum of 12 times. 11 other times prior to Jesus. That exact same story with a different name playing the Christ appears, and Moses being one of them, by the way. And more than that, any that I have found, because the ones that they tell you are Greek, Roman, Egyptian, Hebrew, and well, the Muslims came after, right? Their Christ came after Jesus. But the story of Thor, the story of Marduk, it's the same story. It's the same exact story. So if you're looking at real, true theologian through the theological ideology, not just the study of religion, which was created by humans and corrupted a thing. If you look at the theology from the spiritual practice and the message being delivered by said religions around the world that we still have and still are finding, all of the messages are the same. It's about ascension. It's about graduation from third dimension to a higher plane of existence and how to do that. Okay. And then there's a physiological aspect to all of those religions that tell you about this oil, this Christed oil that is in your body, that your body creates, the land of milk and honey, and the oils that are milk and honey, and what that entails, and how that uplifts your beingness and illuminates your optic thalamus and all of your brain cells, if you are in fact in service to others. If you're not and you're in service to self, then it actually solidifies you more into this place at that exact same equation. Paulie, welcome. Okay, so all of that information doesn't pertain exactly to what Ra's talking about here, but it will as we go. So Carla was being attacked and assassinated, and now Ra is talking about balancing the chakras and the progression up through the chakras into the indigo, and then the knowledge from there. Why the indigo? Because that's 4D. When you get to the indigo ray and the expansion of your consciousness before you get to the third eye and the crown, that is actual 4D thinking, to where you're expanding your consciousness away from the 3D. 3D is the lower three chakras. When you enter the heart chakra, that is the controlling factor for both the upper and lower chakras and the upper and lower archetypes of your personality and your ascension and your progression through your ascension. So the next chakra from the heart is the throat chakra, which is the indigo, which is the blue ray, which is the knowledge and the transmutation of astral energy, of the infinite, of infinite wisdom, infinite love, infinite everything, just infinity and the creation and all of that, only accessible fully by people who are in service to others, not who are in service to self. People who are in service to self gain some of that same knowledge, but it all pertains downward towards the bottom three chakras, which is where they're ruled, which is this place. This place is the beast, 666. You, me, everything. The building blocks of the third dimension is 6 neutrons, 6 protons, and 6 electrons, 666. Look that up. Right? I made a reel about it and posted it on my stuff. Okay. So Paulie says, Cassie won't let me watch where comments are. I want out so I may not write anymore. I'm not quite understanding what you're saying there, Paulie. that Cassie won't let you watch where the comments are? I'm not. Are you talking about where you're at right now? You can't see the comments of what people are saying. It just depends on where you're watching from, as it was shared to you. You can go to Orion Rising, the page, and watch it there, or my personal page, and usually you can pick up all the comments. But if you won't see people commenting on other platforms. You will only see what's being said on Facebook. So it's not that Cassie's not letting you see that. It's just none of you can see that because I'm on 3 different platforms right now. I'm broadcasting on Instagram, I'm broadcasting on YouTube, and I'm broadcasting on Facebook. So there are people talking that you guys can't see. Not even Cassie can see them. Okay. Unless you go to the other platforms. So if that's what you're referring to, that's what's going on. It's not that Cassie's not letting you see those. It's just that you can't, unless you were in this studio where I'm broadcasting from. That's the only place where all of those chats come in, comments come into this studio so that I can see them on all 3 of those. But I'm the only one that's in here. All of you guys are out there on the other platforms, just like the people over in YouTube can't see any of your comments either. And the people on Instagram can't see any of your comments either. They can only hear me talking to you. Okay. So yeah, that's kind of annoying, right? I mean, I would like to, and we've talked about me starting to do this because I am doing this on Zoom where everybody can be there in the audience, there on screen to be able to talk and ask questions. I do that on Wednesday. Where you can actually interact better than just typing. You can actually be on camera, or if you don't want your camera on, you can have that off, but you can then verbalize your questions. And we're not live on air and we're not recording it for people who want to ask questions that are not, that you don't want public. And then we're also doing individuals for people that want to ask questions that don't want anyone else to know about what they're talking about. We do individual Q&As as well. So I'm assuming that that's what you're talking about, right? Yeah, and Fiona you can just go back and hit. And Fiona says, I'll rewatch it when I get from my daughter. She takes me out for the day. Yeah, then by all means, don't stay away from that just to hear my ugly mug talk. You can listen to me whenever. Go and spend time with your daughter. Have fun, and then you can figure out whatever I said afterwards. Right? Enjoy yourself. Okay. So. Oh, yeah, okay. So then it's your phone doing some weird things, right? Cassie, my phone won't let me some weird Facebook stuff. That happens sometimes on certain places where the thing will be somebody will share my. I don't know why it does that, but every now and then, if somebody shares the link from Orion Rising to some other page. Sometimes you guys will only see the comments that are in Orion Rising, not all of Facebook. They're all supposed to filter in together when you do that. If you start a watch party, then that all filters better. I should have had everybody start doing that and start watch parties all over the place. But if you do too many of them, Facebook gets frowning on us because then they're saying we're spamming everybody. But if you just share everything, it's the same thing, and they don't seem to care about that, which is really odd that Facebook does that. Okay. See, that's why, yeah. Paulie said there's 2 pages, one without comments and one with. I did it at first, but then I went out. Now that I'm in, you can see it. Right. So again, I don't know why it does that. Every now and then it does that. It's the difference between sharing to a page and sharing to a group. And if you share, sometimes if you share things from a page to a group, you don't get all the comments. And I noticed that, like, if I share it to my wall, personal page, and from Orion Rising, or I share it there and somebody takes it from there, then you guys can read the comments. But if they take it from my page, for some reason, you guys don't see all the comments. I don't know why it does that. Some flaw that Facebook has that they claim is not their fault, but it is. Right? So I'm glad that you were able to figure that out, right? Yeah, right. It looks like, Cassie, it looks like she figured it out. It looks like she went to the one that she could see the comments now. It just so happens that for whatever reason, the one that got shared, the way it got crossed up in Facebook's technology, it gets weird sometimes. I've had other people say that. I can't read everybody's comments. Why not? Every time that comes up, I'm like, and I usually ask, where's the link from? If it's taking you to Orion Rising, you should be okay. If it's from somewhere, or the opposite way around sometimes. you might have to go to my page where I went live as well. I went live and shared it to my page. And weirdly, it's the same link from Orion Rising. I shared it from there to my page, but that one seems to work. But if you go to the one that was shared from Orion Rising somewhere else, don't know why it does that, but it does it. But it does that. So Polly, she said, if you can't see her talking, then go to the one on my page. Go to Leonard O'Neill. Go to my page on Facebook, and there's a link on my page. And if you click on that one, you'll be able to see all the comments. It's just Facebook technology, and they claim it's not their fault. I don't know whose fault it would be, right? Because it's them, inner freaking company, inner app, sharing it from one place to another, and it doesn't work, but it works everywhere else. Anyway, okay, let me get back to what we're talking about. So Carla was in the middle of, they were talking about being attacked by a fifth dimensional being, and now they're talking about going through the progression of being in service to others, and ended up in the blue ray center, which is the throat chakra, the indigo chakra. Actually, no, it's the light blue, because so the indigo is the third eye, right? I was wrong about what I just said. So the third eye is the indigo. The light blue is the unless I'm messing that up, I'd have to look at my screensaver, right? Yeah, no, so it's blue, and then it goes purple, and then the lighter purple. So it is the indigo. Just some people see it as light blue, but there is only one blue. There's not two. There's a purple and a sort of a pink color. I don't know what you would call that. Okay, so let's continue. All right, so let me go ahead and start up. So we're talking about moving into the wisdom, right? Yeah, Peter said, yeah, I noticed that from the very beginning, that when I've gone live, that it's that way. I always think that your official page on Facebook, because of the link in the group, and you can't read comments because that part I'm getting them reading what Peter is saying. You can't read comments because this part of the algorithm that you have to link in official page, and so I think that's where it is. I think it's because of the going from a page to a group. I don't know why that does that. It shouldn't, but it does. And so Peter said he always just goes to my page and picks up the link, which I shared myself from Orion Rising to my wall, my personal wall. So he goes there, he said, and then he can read everybody's comments. So, yeah. Okay. So let's continue here. All right.
As the adept becomes a more and more consciously crystallized entity, it gradually manifests more and more of that which it always has been since before time. That is, the one infinite creator. 75.24 Questioner. The answer to this question probably has to do with our distorted view of time, but I see wanderers in this density who have come from fifth or sixth density. It seems to me that they should already be of a relatively high degree of adeptness and must follow a slightly or somewhat different path back to the adeptness that they previously had in a higher density and get as close to it as they can in third density. Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. Your query is less than perfectly focused. We shall address the subject in general. There are many wanderers whom you may call adepts who do no conscious work in the present incarnation. It is a matter of attention. One may be a fine catcher of your game sphere, but if the eye is not turned as this sphere is tossed, then perchance it will pass the entity by. If it turned its eyes upon the sphere, catching would be easy. In the case of wanderers which seek to recapitulate the degree of adeptness which each had acquired previous to this life experience, we may note that even after the forgetting process has been penetrated, there is still the yellow ray activated body which does not respond as does the adept which is of a green or blue ray activated body. Thusly, you may see the inevitability of frustrations and confusion due to the inherent difficulties of manipulating the finer forces of consciousness through the chemical apparatus of the yellow ray activated body. 75.
Okay, so before we go to the next question. So when people ask, when they say, okay, so you're unveiled, so then you know everything. And I'm like, no, you can never know everything because there's more to know than you can possibly imagine. First of all, that's why it's called infinite. Okay, infinite. That means non-finite, never ending. The alpha and the omega, the beginning and the end. So the alpha is the beginning and then it keeps going, right? And there is no end. Okay. So that is an issue. But when you come in, and I just talked about this today, and I was talking about this last night. I've been talking about this weirdly all week, forgetting that that's what Ra was going to be talking about in this session. When you come here, if you read let's use Christ again for the analogy. If you watch the Angel Studios television series, which they did a really good job of The Chosen, if you watch the very first couple of episodes, you see Jesus by himself before he started rounding up his apostles. Okay, they show you that introduction of how he's rounding up his apostles. In fact, I think it's the book of Luke, because it's not Matthew, because Matthew tells about his childhood. So there's flashbacks to Matthew. So it's Mark or Luke, which only starts when Jesus appears and starts picking up his 12 apostles. And that's where they started, but then they flash back to Matthew's version of the Bible. And I know most of you probably don't even realize that Matthew's the only one that tells of Jesus's birth and childhood. So you get the story of the manger and the wise men and all that. That all came from Matthew. He's the only one who wrote that. Everybody else started it when they met him. Okay, so anyway, when you see Jesus who's by himself, which is part of Matthew, because otherwise the other people didn't know about it, but it doesn't start where Matthew starts. They just put Matthew first because Matthew has the complete story. Anyway, you see that Jesus was afraid. Jesus was supposed to be the Savior, the light of the world, God's voice, the Trinity, the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, right? In nomine Patri et Filii et Spiritus Sancti, all right? In the name of the Father and the Son and of the Holy Ghost. One, the Trinity. Yet he was afraid and was praying for guidance and praying for help, praying for calmness. Why? Because even the Christ down in human form is subject to this place in this matrix, and the fears and ego and the battle within with the devil, that is the ego, that is the evil in each one of us in this place. Okay, so when people say, well, then you should be above all of that, no, we're still, when you come down here and you're in a body, you are subject to this matrix and all that it entails. You pick up an ego, gets real loud. This place will trick you. This place will solidify you, and this place will lock you into the matrix. And then programming on television, the internet, and all around the world, and their control will do the same to you. Okay, so you have to. So the sacrifice is following that Christ, and everybody else who did the same thing. So not just Jesus, but all the other Christs in history that came down and occupied down here on earth and then ascended to show the way. You're going through that process again. So you come down here and you have to experience this place, whether you like it or not, in the hopes you're veiled. This is what Ra's talking about right now. You are veiled like everyone else. You are veiled. You cannot see anything but this place and then you hope that you will be able to, something will stir within you faster than normal people, so that you may wake up in one lifetime, the first one that you're down here, say, and in every lifetime, so that you remember why you came here and you remember who you are and that you're here to help. But every lifetime, unless you come through completely unveiled, which is rare. Okay, I did that in this lifetime to do what I'm doing now, but I was still in the veil, because what happens is once you get here, and even if you're unveiled, if you stop concentrating for a second, this place will start to veil you. You have to constantly cleanse. You have to constantly remind yourself. You have to constantly be not stuck in here and not distracted by the place of distraction, because everything is designed to distract you. Everything. Okay. And opposition is trying to distract you away from concentrating on who you are. It is a trap of the mind, not created by aliens to trap you, not a prison by aliens, a prison by God. The creator of the universe created this prison for baby souls. The hardest place you'll ever have to live is third dimensional life, and it's the first place that you become self-aware and you start thinking for yourself, and then you get solidified into it and you have to figure out how to get out of it. Once you figure that out, the equation being the first step in avoiding a trap is knowing of its existence, then it becomes easier for you, and everything else past this place is a cakewalk compared to this place. But it has its own, it's not easy. It has its own problems that you're going to run into and frustrations that are on a different level, the same type of frustration is here. But once you can be here and get out of here, the memory that you have of being here and how hard it was to get out of here helps you to endeavor in the rest of your existence back to the Creator. But it's by no means easy from here on out or after this place. It's still hard. It's meant to be, because you're supposed to be learning. If it's not hard, you don't learn. Okay? And if you don't learn, then this entire endeavor it becomes moot. And that's not the purpose of it. The purpose of it is to experience and to live. So it has to be difficult so that you'll do it and take it seriously, or otherwise people just go, yeah, man, it's cool. You're God. I'm God. We're all God, bro. You know what I mean? Okay, so you have to realize that. But the key here is that Ra is telling you this 43 years ago, telling you 44 years ago, because this is 2025, 44 years ago. No, it was 1981, still 44 years ago. 44 years ago saying to you, everyone is the Creator. Okay? And that wasn't Carla just reading the Hebrew Bible and picking up that mysticism like Risen Nation was inferring. But it is in there. It's correct in that it is mysticism from these religions, but it's not occulted mysticism. So it should be called spiritualism, not mysticism. Mysticism gives the same connotation as esoteric, when esoteric just doesn't mean hidden, it means within. But they've changed the word, like equity and equality, telling you that equity means equality when equity is actually a property value. You have equity in your house when you own a house. You have equity in your portfolio. You don't have equality in your portfolio. You don't have equality in your house. You have monetary value. Okay? So they changed the words in the definition from the word esoteric meaning occulted or meaning hidden. And it doesn't mean that. The word esoteric means within. Okay? There's another word where you change one letter in that vocabulary, and that's exoteric. And that means external. We get our English word exit from exoteric. Okay? So exoteric means the art of, or the motion of exiting. That would be our word. Exoteric means exiting. So esoteric means entering, not hidden, not occulted. But people think that that's what it means today. It's a concept word that can mean that. Okay? So mysticism comes from magi, which comes from illumination. Okay? Which means like Illuminati. It comes from illumination. It comes from the ascension. So in a sense, the word mysticism means that it is illuminating. It doesn't mean that it's hidden or that it's some sort of magic. Everyone thinks that because the word magi comes from the word, or the word magic comes from the word magi, it's just the same thing. Magic means the art of enlightenment, knowing. So if you look those words up far enough back, Sarah, welcome, then you realize that that's what those mean, right? So, but yes, I agree. So Risen understands that it is just as meanings for study, right? Yeah. So agreed. I like that. So just for the sake of argument in the studying, yes, I agree with you, because it does mean that. Ultimately, it does, because it's a concept. It's like the word pneuma, which is a Greek word that literally means the breath of God, but it actually means the spark of God, or the spark of life. So the concept is bigger than the actual translation. So the spirit of the translation, as opposed to the direct translated words, because the direct translated words don't always translate properly, is my point, Risen. I wasn't saying you were wrong. My point was that everything is relative to what you understand that word to mean individually, them out there, right? That's what I meant by that. So, but you got it, and I see that with what you were saying, right? You understood what you were saying. You understood what you were saying. Okay. So, what do you mean by present? Are you talking to me? What do I mean by present? You mean by the word presence or the word being present? Right? So, yeah. Okay. Well, then there you go. Because then there's present and present, a gift or whatever, right? So, yeah. Oh, Sarah Jane said I told her where I don't know where to start with the videos. She advised me to start coming present videos, maybe first. Yeah, I would suggest that to people that show up for the live and start listening, and then you can always go back and start somewhere because I cover all of the books, so I'm constantly covering the same information. It's cyclical in nature, honestly. So you're going to get so what we tell you, that's a great thing that Cassie said, start in the present, start with now in the live versions, because you're going to hear that I talk in parables, and I know that people learn by 7 different ways of learning. So I talk in parables on purpose because I don't want to lose anyone from the conversation. So if you're high enough vibration, you're going to go, he keeps repeating himself. And that's what people do. They're like, you repeat yourself over and over. And I'm like, yeah, well, okay, you get that. But you're rare. Most people don't realize I'm repeating myself when I'm giving the different parables. That's why people speak in parables, because people hear things that way. Okay. So you will find that if you go back, there's going to be information that you're going to hear different ways. So you may not fully follow what I say in one episode, but you will in the next episode or the one after that. And it'll round itself out for you. Right. So if you come to the live, you get to ask questions if you're on the live. Same thing with on Wednesday. If you can come at this time on Wednesday, I do a Q&A where we're not on the air, so other people don't hear it. We're on a Zoom call, and you can come in and ask me any questions about spirituality, and I will answer them for you. And then if you don't want to do that in a setting where there might be 4 or 5 or 6 other people in there, then we can work with you, whoever you resonate with, we can work with you one-on-one to answer the questions as well, okay? And we do a lot of that. I was doing that earlier today. Seriously. Doing that earlier today with 2 other people. So going to the live is the best place to start because you can interact with me and ask questions and make comments and get a little bit of results and a little bit of clarification. When you just listen to the show in reverse from another session, say if you start at the beginning of the Law of One, you're going to hear stuff that you can't answer. And I always tell people, write things down if you do that. And then you can always come into, if you're in the Law of One chat, you can come in there and ask questions or message me or Cassie or even Peter, if he's here. Peter is still here. You can message us personally and ask the questions, and we will endeavor to answer them as soon as we can. We like to speak because it takes less time. If we can talk to one another, we can cover a lot more information, a lot more ground. Okay. So, so welcome, right? Welcome, Sarah, and Sarah Jane, I should say your whole name, right? And if you do have questions, please don't hold back. This is why I'm here. I'm using the Law of One as a guide for people that know the Law of One or have read the books. Then they may want to hear an interpretation of it, because that's what I'm trying to do. I'm translating it. It's my job, right? I do represent the throat chakra. My name means that, right? My name is an interpretive. Literally, when I was baptized Gabriel Leo. So my name is Leonard, which is Lionheart, right? Edward, which is guardian, protector. And my last name is O'Neill, which is son of or clan of, family bloodline of, champion of the people. So being baptized Gabriel was God's messenger. So you would have, if you're a Christian, you would have God thinking it, Jesus saying it, and it's delivered by Gabriel. And then Leo was the person who took that information from Gabriel and translated it to the people. Okay. And I chose Gabriel, and the nun chose Saint Leo. So I have an archangel name and a saint name that are delivering the same message. Literally the throat chakra, and translating the message of the creator to the people. And it's what I do. And I wasn't doing this in 2004, but the nun somehow, Moira McPherson, God rest her if she's not with us anymore. She could be still alive. She'd be like 90. She apparently was far more awake than even I suspected back then when I was getting baptized in 2004. Okay, 2002. Okay, so, and yes, I am, Chandra. What? Thank you. Yes, I am. By the 12-month calendar. She asked the question, "Are you a Leo?" Also, and my initials are Leo, Leo, Leonard Edward O'Neill, Leo. So by the 12-month calendar, I was born September 10th. So by the 12-month calendar, I'm a Virgo. But by the 13-month calendar, it shifts me back to Leo. So by the true calendar of this Earth, the one that was going on for the entire first part of the planet until the Romans got a hold of it and Romanized the calendar. So up until 1100 years ago, or right around, say, the turn of, AD to BC, or BC to AD. Yeah, BC to AD, when the Romans were in charge 2,000 years ago, and they changed the calendar to this Gregorian solar calendar. I'm a Leo. So I have all these Leos, right? So my first name, initials, Leo, the being baptized, and Leo, the sun sign. So literally, I have quad Leo in my personality, and the voice of God, and I represent this chakra on this earth as the spoken word and the translator of the scrolls. I can translate every scroll. You name a scroll, I can tell you what it really means. And I wasn't always able to do that. It drove me crazy that I wasn't able to do that. And then one day I was able to do that. I've told that story, but I'll tell it again. 3 years ago, last November, I was reading all the Dead Sea Scrolls and the scrolls and reading everything again and again, studying. I do this all the time. I'm a nerd. Reading the Bible, I was reading the scrolls, and I found a scroll that I realized, because I'm a code breaker, the government wanted to hire me. The U.S. government wanted to hire me to go to work for them when I was 11. I started looking into, that's why I got involved in the Bible code, because there's a code in there, and I wanted to break that code. But not being Hebrew, the Hebrews that were running the Bible code didn't really want to hear from a kid that had ideas about what that code was. So I had to do everything on my own, but I was looking and reading scrolls, and I found one that I realized while I was reading the different chapters of it, that the language seemed to be coming through for my perception. And I also have, I'm teaching myself 28 languages currently. Okay. I have I'm a mimic, and I can read languages and learn languages really quickly. So there's Josie. Welcome. Hi, Josie. I haven't seen you for a while. Wow. Welcome. I haven't seen Josie's the reason why I started using the Law of One. One day I was doing my podcast talking about spirituality, talking about the way. And she said, Leo, this is the Law of One. I said, what is this? 2017. Then I'll get back to my story about the scrolls. This was in 2017, the summer of 2017. Josie said, Leo, that's the Law of One. I said, I don't even know what that is. She said, I'll give you a link. You need to listen to this. So she gave me a link, but I didn't, right after the podcast was over, I didn't immediately click on the link because what's his name? I can't think of his name right now, who was part of the History Channel's Ancient Aliens, who went to work for Gaia and then quit. I can see his face right now, but I can't think of his name. He was also on the Above Majestic, blonde hair. God, I can't remember his name for right now. I don't know why. Anyways, he was live, so I went to watch him. Well, he knew Carla and lived with Carla and Dawn and lived on their couch for a while and then moved to their house on the property. So he knew about the Law of One. He mentioned it like, that's two people. Josie said it, and he said it on the same day. I got to look this up. So I went there and listened to, because she sent me a link to to a video, and that it was all of the sessions. And so I went through all 106 sessions and said, I got to talk about this. So I did that and finished all 106 sessions, translating it. And then now I've started over a second time, and we're on session 75. So Josie, welcome. And I think Josie still helps with Ancient Aliens Worldwide. I saw that she was one of the administrators again working with Mandy Wilson, who is the curator running that place. So Josie and Mandy run Ancient Aliens Worldwide, the group on Facebook, which I created back in 2012, but I haven't anything to do with forever. David Wilcock, thank you, Josie. I can't believe I couldn't remember his name. Do not tell him that I did not remember his name. Right? He'll get mad at me if he finds that out, that I couldn't remember his name. He'll go, that's okay, I don't remember him either, because you know how he is. Okay, thank you for that. So she's the one that said Law of One, and I started reading it. It was like, yeah, I need to get this information out to the people. So I've been translating it ever since. And then when I wrote my book, The Reality About Reality, Returning to the Old Ways, which is furthering that information. Why? Okay, let me get back to the story of the scrolls. So 3 years ago, last November, I was studying all the different scrolls, Dead Sea Scrolls, running through them. And I thought this was one of the Dead Sea Scrolls, but I can't find it anymore. And I'll tell you exactly what happened here. So I was reading the scroll, and I was realizing that the language was written and translated into English. But I was realizing that as I was reading it, that there were different English languages appearing on each page in each chapter. And that it seemed, because I know some Old English, that some of the words were in Old English, some of them were in modern English, and some of them were in what I would see as a version of English that doesn't exist yet, that the English language will eventually modify into and morph into. And I got to thinking about the Bible code, and that they were using a skip program where they would skip letters. Every couple of letters, they'd go one letter and then skip two and then do another letter. And they were finding a code that was in there, in those skips, when they would do every other letter, every third letter, every fifth letter, every sixth letter. When they put that into the computer program and ran it through the algorithm, they would find messages in the Bible. And I studied that back in 2002, 2004, when they were heavily studying that around the world. They still are, but they were trying to unlock that and figure out what the key is to breaking that code, so they could get things in the future, find out things before they happen. And so I was thinking maybe it's a skip thing like that, but it was a little more obvious. I thought, what if this is 3 or 4 different languages separated, and letters are put into places of the other languages? If there was 4 languages, you could literally move 2 of them around, and then like the next word, take the other 2 and move them. And so I actually sat down. This is the nerd that I am. I actually sat down one night and started writing, and I started looking for and identifying the placement of each letter from each chapter, because they were all saying the same thing over and over and over. I noticed, with small differences in what it was saying, that seemed to be only a few words here and there. So I started writing it down, and I wrote all that stuff down, right? And when I wrote it all down, the craziest thing happened, because what I was doing was I was identifying where modern English was in the letters throughout all of the placements. And if I moved them over to the place that they were supposed to be in, from all of the other chapters, would that make one complete chapter that made sense, or would it be jumbled up and it didn't make any sense? So I realized that everything was moved exactly enough to where if you saw that kind of code and realized that the first letter, say, of the first verse of the first chapter was in modern English letter, right? They were all almost similar, but then the words sometimes would be the whole word that would shift. And so you would have one whole word in modern English, one whole word in Old English, and one whole word in a English that hasn't existed throughout time yet. So it must be from the future. So I then went, okay, let me go and find the next chapter and see what's in that place of those 2 words, Old English and the forward-thinking English, and see if in one of those there is a modern English equivalent to that word. So because I didn't understand the language that was the future language as much, I had to use the Old English and the modern English to be able to, Old English, Middle English, modern English, and another English is what it turned out to be. So when I was able to look up the Old English, the Middle English, and the modern English words, because you can do that, I was able to find that I could move those words or translate those words into the modern English word. Okay. It was only the words that were specifically the forward English, that was the next evolution of English, that I couldn't translate right away. But you can get the concept if you understand language. And I understand language really well. I'm really good at it. That's why people go, you can only learn one language at a time. I'm learning 28. Not a joke. I'm on Duolingo and have been since 2013. And I'm currently learning 28 languages at the same time. Whatever I feel like in a day, I'll do an hour of. The next day I'll do a different one. And the next day I'll do a different one and a different one. And it works for me. Most people can't do that. Okay. So I did that and I translated the scroll. Okay. And then I read it. And when I read it, there was a flash of light, literally blinding me. And I was like, whoa, that was weird. And then my eyes cleared and I looked down and there was nothing written down. And I thought I must have fallen asleep or something. I'll have to come back in the morning and try it again because I'm too tired. I'm going to go to sleep. I came back the next day and I couldn't find that scroll again to do what I did. And I thought, did I fall asleep? And I was like, no, I was not asleep. I know the difference. I was not asleep. Well, then where did it go? And so I have yet to be able to find it. Never found it again. Cannot find that scroll anywhere, out of any place. And I've asked people about it. Can't find it. 3 years, can't find it. What I found, though, was from that day, when I was going back and reading scrolls, Dead Sea Scrolls, other passages in the Bibles, different, that I was seeing things differently than I was before. And all of these scrolls where they tell you, lock this away and this will only be for the people in the future and, at the end times to be able to translate, I was able to actually figure out what they were saying. And it all stemmed from that one scroll that I read that no longer exists. That was a flash in my brain when I saw the entire thing in its entirety. So you can claim that it happened any way you like. I fell asleep. I made it up, whatever. But the truth is, I was able to translate scrolls. And then I thought I was crazy. And I didn't want to tell anybody about it because I needed validation. So I started asking people. Have you noticed that you can kind of, if you've studied these scrolls, have you read them lately, can you figure them out? And everybody would be like, oh, yeah, I can figure them out. Really? What does it say? What do you think it says? Then they have no idea. So I'm thinking, okay, I made this stuff up. Okay. It's just me. I made it up. I'm thinking I'm seeing something, but nobody else is. But then the strange thing happened 2 years after I was able to do that, a year ago now. People around the world started saying, I can read these scrolls and this is what it's saying. And it's exactly what I saw and still can see. And it was more than one other person. People around the earth are having the same thing happen to them. And they're able to now translate these scrolls that people were told they can't translate. And I can translate those same scrolls. And all of us are coming up with the exact same information, as a matter of factly, but people tend to not want to believe it because it sounds too obvious. And it can't be that, right? So, but now people are starting to just a matter of factly know these things, right? In the revelation of Jesus Christ, the letters to the churches. I'll tell you right now what that is. The letters to the churches are the chakras and how to balance them to graduate off of this planet and make your way back to heaven. The gates that you go through from the Egyptian religion, where you have to know the names of the gods names of the gates that you know are the chakra names of the chakras and the information that you need to make it to the afterlife on the boat. It's balancing your chakras. The first 7 books of the Emerald Tablet of Thoth are the balancing of the chakras to graduate from this place. All of which you have to be in service to others to do. All of which that if you're in service to self is what in the Bible says God hates this and detests you because you're not doing these things. But when I tell people that, most people go, that is not what it says. And I'm like, really? So what do you think it says? It's not that. Well, what do you think it says? Every time I ask them that, what do you think it would be? Something crazy. Okay, so I just told you this. What do you think of that? Well, that's just crazy. So wait a minute. So you're expecting something crazy. But when I tell you this, you say that that's just crazy. So is it not crazy enough? Is that what you're saying? So the people still won't accept it because they're not supposed to. Okay. However, I'm not the only one that's saying that about all of the stuff. Okay. Did Brooke pop in? I didn't even see you. I'm sorry, Brooke. Hi. Brooke did pop in. Who else did I miss? Anybody else that I missed that popped in? Hello. Okay. So now I'm still translating that stuff, but I'm also talking about that with the law of one, explaining that. And here Ra is talking about the same thing. Ra is talking about balancing the chakras and getting to the throat chakra and what that means for you along your ascension path. So 40 years ago, Carla, who was making things up, according to people, was also talking about balancing the chakras to be able to get out of here if she made it all up. Okay, so how did she know that information? Oh, she must have just learned that Eastern philosophical mysticism, hocus pocus. Every single religion on this earth, before they were religions, when they were a spiritual way of life, were teaching the exact same thing. And there is a timeline when all of that information was removed from right before your eyes, and you were discouraged from learning it, realizing it, and knowing it. And that is what my book, The Reality About Reality, Returning to the Old Ways, is starting to explain to you. And since I mentioned it, I'm going to go ahead and do a commercial for it really quickly, and then we'll get back into the law of one. So let me go back over here and plunk in the commercial for you, right? Oh, wait a minute. That's not the commercial tape. Here it is here. And we'll be right back.
What is the reality about reality? Returning to the old ways. It is a comprehensive book about what is really going on here on this planet. It talks about the true spirituality that the controllers who think they own this planet have been keeping from you for thousands of years. It explains to you the knowledge that you gain from the universe itself when you live the way the prophets of the world throughout time told us how to live. Eat right, meditate, take care of yourself, treat others right. All the things they originally told us to do, but the controllers have removed from right in front of our eyes. The way to ascend to heaven. The reality about reality. Returning to the old ways. On sale worldwide, online now.
Okay, so let's get back into the law of one. So literally, Ra is talking about balancing the chakras and going to the indigo ray chakra, the throat chakra, and that unlocking the wisdom, starting to unlock the infinite wisdom and the realization that you are the creator, and that you are, or that we all are, the creator and a co-creator of this place. So let's continue with the next question.
5.25 Questioner. You probably can't answer this, but are there any suggestions you could give with respect to the instrument's coming hospital experience that could be of benefit for her? Ra. I am Ra. We may make one suggestion and leave the remainder with the creator. It is well for each to realize itself as the creator. Thusly each may support each, including the support of self by humble love of self as creator. 75.26 Questioner. You
Right.
spoke in a
Hold on, let me
previous
pause
session
this
about
real
certain
quick.
Hebrew
I
and
tried to
Sanskrit
pause
sound
that, didn't get
vibratory
it paused.
complexes being powerful because they were math.
There we go. Sorry about that. Yeah, Peter was saying that too, right? Peter said that him being dyslexic, he's able to he's able to read and translate the scrolls, but him being dyslexic makes it a little bit harder for him to do that. But because he's dyslexic, he sees things forwards and backwards, and he sees codes in a lot of things. He and I've talked about that. We should probably talk about it more, he and I, but we've talked about that, right? So, okay, so let's continue. Cody just showed up. Cody, well, or maybe you didn't just show up. You just said something in the chat, so I just saw you because I have my glasses on right now. So welcome. Okay, so let's continue with the law of one.
Thematically related to that which was the creation. Could you expand on this understanding, please, as to how these are linked? Ra. I am Ra. As we previously stated, the linkage is mathematical or that of the ratio. You may consider it musical. There are those whose mind complex activities would attempt to resolve this mathematical ratio, but at present the coloration of the intoned vowel is part of the vibration which cannot be accurately measured. However, it is equivalent to types of rotation of your primary material particles. 75.
Right, so like Nikola Tesla said, if you want to know the secrets to the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. Okay? And that is literally the cyclical nature of this universe that you live in, this illusion that you live in. 3, 6, and 9. Energy, frequency, vibration. Okay? energy. And that's the other thing. And I tell people this, that you need to readjust your thinking when it comes to the chakras. The red ray root chakra is not the number one chakra. Okay. It doesn't fit with nature when you have that. And that's why they tell you that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. And because of that, you're out of sync and you're out of balance. You need to see the red ray root chakra is the number 3. This nature is 3. The Druids knew about it. The Merlins knew about it. A lot of people knew about it. Because if you superimpose that, shift your thinking from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, boom, shift that down. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That shows you the charm of making. That shows you 3, 6, and 9. 3 is the red ray root chakra. 6 becomes the heart chakra. And 9 becomes your crown chakra. Okay? 3, 6, and 9. Okay, so the 3, 6, and 9, the 9 becoming the hex boson, the God particle, the God project, the God influence, the infinite wisdom, infinity itself that controls the universe and flips it back over on itself. I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. 9 is 9, which is everything, and nothing, which is 0. I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. Energy, 3. Frequency, 6. No, energy, frequency, vibration, 9. So vibration being spiritual, frequency being harmonic, energy being solid, third dimension. Okay, so when you think of the chakras, do not think of them as in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Think of them as in what the Emerald Tablets of Thoth said. Thoth said the names of the gods that rule the archetypes are 3, 4, 5, and 6, 7, 8, and 9. So the only time there was an and in there was 6. Why is that? Because of the Vesica Pisces, the yin and the yang. The Vesica Pisces is 2 circles intertwined with one another. And if you shift that thinking to where it's this way, as much as I can tilt it this way, 1, 2, 3, or 3, 4, 5, bottom 3 chakras, 6, the heart chakra, in between, controlling both, and then the top 3 chakras, going up to 9. So you have 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay? So 3, 4, 5, and 6, 7, 8, 9. Why? Because and 6 is the only duality chakra, because 6 rules the bottom 3 and the upper 3. And the people who are solidified and living only in the bottom 3 chakras, living in the flesh, they feel love only for themselves, still the heart chakra. People who are in service to others feel love, but to everyone else, upper 3 chakras, more spiritual. Okay, so you need to understand that. You need to understand that more importantly. And I describe that in my book, but I don't go into as much detail because I'm putting that in the next book that I'm writing about that. Okay, so let's continue here. So you need to change your thinking and realize that the chakras are not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They are in fact 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Energy, frequency, vibration. Let's continue.
5.27 Questioner. If these sounds are precisely vibrated, then what effect or use would they have with respect to the purposes of the adept? Ra. I am Ra. You may consider the concept of sympathetic resonance. When certain sounds are correctly vibrated, the creation sings. 75.28 Questioner. Would these sounds, then, be of a musical nature in that there would be a musical arrangement of many different sound vibrations, or would this apply to just one single note? Or which would it apply more to? Ra. I am Ra. This query is not easily answered. In some cases only the intoned vowel has effect. In other cases, most notably Sanskrit combinations, the selection of harmonic intervals is also of resonant nature. 75.29 Questioner.
That's why when you hear other languages spoke outside of English, you will hear the more of a harmonic resonance and cadence to speaking in other languages. The older the language, the more harmonic they sound. And you don't really pick that up unless you are ascending. If you are ascending on the in service to others side, you are then moving into your higher chakras. When you do that, you start to pick up the beauty of the nature of nature. You start seeing the beauty in things. You start seeing life and love in things. You also start hearing it in nature. You start hearing it in language. But you'll note but you don't hear it in English, because English is based on what they've done to the harmonics on this planet. They've retuned it from G to C and told you that C was perfect, and that was a lie. C is being used so that it's the furthest away from the perfect Om sound. Om is not C. Om, look that up, look up that resonance of Om. It's actually a G, okay? So the perfect zone for sound is G major, G minor, and G flat, not C, okay? So G flat would be more perfect, and if you hear the resonance of Om, it's a G flat. So our musical instruments are all attuned to C, and that's the attunement of the third dimension. So it sounds perfect if you're living in third dimension. So for people who are living in the flesh, C is perfect. But if you go back in time to these composers who were writing music that is still there in classical music, you find they rarely do anything in C. Why is that? Because that wasn't the thing. 1948 was when they decided that all instruments should be attuned to C. Before that, people were playing with music, doing it in A, doing it in D, doing it in B, doing it in everything but C. Okay? Why is that? There was a reason for it, because they knew that C was the dead sound. It was the harmonic resonance of the flesh only in this place. Most of your composers don't do that. Today, everyone does, because everything has to be tuned to C, because that's perfect for this pitch, for this place. But it's not for a spiritual being, and it's not for a spiritual place. And they don't want you to in any way expand your consciousness by hearing a sound that is of a different tone. So that's why these days people are doing frequencies, and those frequencies are not tuned to C. So when you hear frequencies now, they're tuned to the frequency that they are, which is not C. They're above and below C in the register and the range. Okay. And that's why those are very popular and being broadcast in meditations now, because they're using these frequencies that are not tuned to the key of C. And they can't stop it now. There's too many of us on the planet that are rearranging things. And that's why you hear people tuning their instruments now, not to C, but to G, and playing from there. Like Tool, most of their songs are in G. Why is that? Because they understand that. They understand that. A lot of bands are doing that these days. They're tuning to G now. G flat, G major, G minor, not C. Sometimes they'll go C minor, but otherwise they're starting to throw everything into G because they're rebelling against the C flat. Okay, let's continue, right? 432 hertz, right, Cody? So, okay. So let's continue. Yeah, you're not nuts, Cassie said. You're not nuts for that reason. Anyways, right? Okay, let's continue here. So now Ra is getting into energy, frequency, vibration, and explaining the difference in language. The older language, like Sanskrit, the older languages are more harmonic compared to this that I'm speaking to you now, which is very unharmonic. So there's not much of a cadence to it. It's a cadence, but it's not a pretty cadence. It's almost a guttural, like lizard cadence. It's not pretty, really.
Then would the adept use this resonant quality to become more one with the creation and, therefore, attain his objective in that way? Ra, I am Ra. It would, perhaps, be more accurate to state.
Yes, Cody, that's what she was referring to. That's why they didn't like the banjo, because the banjo is never tuned to C, right? The banjo is off tunes, right? So it's always flats and majors. It's not flats, it's majors and minors, and it's in banjo's tuned to C or to G, right? That's why some people love the sound of the banjo and other people don't. Depends on where you are in your spirituality or the lack thereof. Let's continue.
That in this circumstance the creation becomes more and more contained within the practitioner. The balance of your query is correct. 75.30 Questioner, could you tell me the musical name of the notes to be intoned that are of this quality? Ra, I am Ra. We may not. 75.31 Questioner, I didn't think that you could, but I thought it wouldn't hurt to ask. Then I assume that these must be sought out and determined by empirical observation of their effect by the seeker. Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. This is partially correct. As your seeking continues, there will be added to empirical data that acuity of sensibility which continued working in the ways of the adept offers. 75.32 Questioner.
Okay, before we start that, Deborah, welcome. There's my sister in real life, just popped in and saying hello. Peter, you're absolutely right. So if you look at some of the folk music from the Irish, from the Celts, you find that they're not tuned to A. That's why if you watch Braveheart, when they talk about outlawed tunes played on outlawed pipes, because the Scottish pipes and the Irish pipes back then were outlawed by the English when they conquered the islands, and they didn't want them playing them because they were not tuned to what they now refer to as Satan's frequency or the devil's frequency, C. Okay, so they outlawed the pipes and they outlawed the tunes that were written that were specifically not written in the tune of C. Why would they do that? Oh, they were just trying to stifle them of in any way learning about their culture. No, they were taking complete everything. They could play any tune they wanted. They could recreate new tunes, but it had to be on bagpipes that were tuned to C, and the songs had to be tuned to C. And then they allowed the Irish and the Scottish to make whatever songs they wanted, as long as they didn't do it in the old traditional folk way. And that's what Peter's referring to, because then eventually both the Irish and the Scottish got back to that, and other people around the world got back to that in their cultures, and they're ignoring these people and not allowing them to dictate to them to stay in C. All right, let's continue.
The three aspects of the magical personality are stated to be power, love, and wisdom. Is this correct, and are these the only primary aspects of the magical personality? Ra, I am Ra. The three aspects of the magical personality: power, love, and wisdom.
Right, and originally, Cody's reminded me, the banjo was as well. The banjo was banned as well because of that. And they didn't want that. That's why she was saying that. That's why they didn't like the banjo, because they needed it to go away. But then people went against that and said, screw you, we're going to do it anyways. And that's why the banjo is still here today. Correct. Love the banjo because it's tuned to G. Let's continue.
Are so called in order that attention be paid to each aspect in developing the basic tool of the adept, that is, itself. It is by no means a personality of three aspects. It is a being of unity, being of sixth density and equivalent to what you call your higher self, and, at the same time, is a personality enormously rich in variety of experience and subtlety of emotion. The three aspects are given that the neophyte not abuse the tools of its trade, but rather approach those tools balanced in the center of love and wisdom, and thus seeking power in order to serve. 75.33 Questioner.
See, so now that's reflective of being in service to others, and that the information that you unlock will then solidify you in on that course and give you an information that you would only use in service to others. So this is what we talk about all the time, where as your vibration moves up in service to others, you unlock an information, a package, a group of information that comes into as a download that comes to you, that the wisdom and the information that you gain, you can only gain if you're in service to others. And you can't fool the universe. I'm going to pretend that I'm in service to everybody else so that I can gain that information. You will not. You cannot fool the universe. Okay. So, but on the flip side of that, people who are in service to self also themselves have a package of information that gets downloaded to them that you, if you're in service to others, cannot know, because they only get that information. So they all get the same information as they move up in service to self, like the people who are in service to others all unlock the same information that everyone else unlocks being in service to others. But people that are stuck in the matrix and are still veiled, they don't understand what motivates either people. Well, those people are just religious, so they see that as that. But on the other side of the coin, they don't understand evil people at all, and their psyche and what motivates them and why they do the things they do. They don't. Then they ask that question all the time: why did that man do that? Why did that man kill those people? Why did that man rape those women? Why do they do that? Because they can. They gain power from the act of doing that you're unaware of, because you're not in service to self. And anybody who's deviant and in service to self, they know exactly why those people are doing it, and they know exactly what they're getting from doing that. That's why they do the things that they do. They're driven to do it by instinct until they're aware of it, and then they do it because of what they get from it. Okay? They get one of two things. It's either a psychological gratification or a sexual gratification, both of which are unlocking the same endorphins in the brain. So both of which ultimately are a sexual orientation for doing what they do. Okay? So it's either the act of the sex or the act of the sex in the mind. Either way, it's the same gratification that is the same endorphins kicking into the brain, the same drug being kicked into the brain by both acts of murder, rape, pillage, control, all of those things that are negative, that negative people are doing. In the same respect, on the other side, that euphoric feeling that you're getting when it feels good because you help somebody. It feels good to help somebody. Those endorphins that you're receiving there are the same endorphins that everyone else is receiving for doing the same thing. And that in and of itself is also a form of sexual gratification that you're unaware of, but not in a deviant way, in a more loving way. It's still, even though it's psychological in nature and illuminating, it still has the same euphoric effect as when you're having sex and you have an orgasm. It's just not as intense, but it is in a different way. But the act of doing that kindness unlocks the same for you that it does on the other side. Only they have a more deviant way of receiving that. So this is what Ra's talking about before when he said it has the potentiation for different sides. When Dawn asked earlier in this session about whether or not the same act he gives in service to self or in service to others, but and Ra said it has the potentiation to be utilized by both, and that's where the heart chakra comes in to the controlling of both the upper and the lower. So if you love yourself, then everything you're going to be doing is self-gratifying, self-serving. If you love others, still from the same place, you love others, everything's going to be a sacrifice to other people, and you're doing it for them, to help them, to better other people. But the effect on the physiological brain is almost identical. The difference is what you unlock. The package of knowledge that you gain from the universe becomes starkly opposite. All right, let's continue.
You mentioned in an earlier session that the hair was an antenna. Could you expand on that statement as to how that works? Ra, I am Ra. It is difficult to so do due to the metaphysical nature of this antenna effect. Your physics are concerned with measurements in your physical complex of experience. The metaphysical nature of the contact of those in time/space is such that the hair, as it has significant length, becomes as a type of electrical battery which stays charged and tuned and is then able to aid contact even when there are small anomalies in the contact. 75.34 Questioner, well, is there an optimum length of hair for this aid? Ra, I am Ra. There is no outer limit on length, but the, shall we say, inner limit is approximately 4 to 4.5 inches depending upon the strength of the contact and the nature of the instrument. 70.
Okay, so 4.5 inches minimum of hair will start to act as an antenna for your communication. So if you're like me and you don't have any hair on the top of your head, you grow it in your beard. But if you have hair on the top of your head, 4.5 inches. So ultimately, if you can get it to be 6 to 8 inches long, then you will have an easier time with spirituality. The reason that women are more spiritual than men in the modern era is women have longer hair usually than men do. So that's why when you look at truly Native Americans, you look at Native peoples around the world, most of the societies that are very spiritual in nature, the men and women have long hair. Okay. Not saying that if you're bald like me and you shave, that you won't wake up and that you can't be spiritual. You can and you will, but it'll take longer. And if you're going to try and channel people, you have to get good at it. If you're bald or you have clean shaven, you have to be good at it to be able to do that. So it's harder to get to that place than it would be for somebody who just grew their beard and their long hair. So this is why in most of the religions of old, they tell you not to cut your hair. okay, and not to shave your beard. So that's why you see Hasidic Jews and you see, some Muslims around the world and other people from other religions, Eastern philosophical thought, having full beards, having long hair. There's a reason for that is spiritual in nature, not just because they think they look cool. That's why it's called the beard of wisdom, that the Egyptians always wore a long beard, whoever was the pharaoh, that the kings of Europe had long hair and beards as long as they could, even if they had gray hair. The wizards have long hair. This is depicted and recognized, not because it's cool, but recognized because a person who has the long beard seems to be more wise. Why? They're more in tune with nature. They're more in tune with the universe. Being aware of it, first step in avoiding a trap is knowing of its existence. Being aware that long hair gives you better access to the universe, to your guides, to your higher self, helps you. So if you go around shaving your head and shaving your face, it's going to slow down the process for you. It's not going to stifle you, because ultimately you are part of the creation, because you are one of the creators, part of the creator who created this. So you're going to still be able to ascend, and you will be just fine. So it doesn't mean that those people who cut their hair are never going to wake up and they can't be awake. That doesn't mean that. But you'll have an easier time if you let your hair grow than you're trying to wake up. And then the knowledge that your hair is not just hair, not just dead nerve endings. It's an antenna that actually aids you in everything that you do spiritually, is actually important for the tool that it is. All right, let's continue.
5.35 questioner. May anyone in third density accomplish some degree of healing if they have the proper will, desire, and polarity?
Penny, that's very astute. Most people don't ever catch that. I'm going to put this up on the screen. Penny said, so that's why my hair holds so much static electricity. Yes, absolutely. Because they are nerve endings. Your hair is nerve endings. Okay. And so they'll tell you that. You can look that up on Google. Even Google will tell you that. So a nerve is something that transmits. It's a highway for electrical current. Okay. So it's a conduit for electrical current. So why would your hair not hold static electricity just because the nerve is not active right now? This is an end of a nerve that's growing out. So it's hollow on the inside. This is a fiber optic cable. Your hair is a fiber optic cable that's not currently being used anymore. And so it's renewing itself on the inside, and it's pushing out the stuff that it's not using, but it still is a conduit. It's just a dry conduit, but it still holds electricity, holds water, and water is a current. It holds current. Water disperses current. Hair holds the water into itself. And then if you take something like this and you add water to it and it holds it in place, and you add electricity to it, guess what? You have a battery. Okay? Your hair acts as a battery. He just said that. Okay? Your hair acts as not just an antenna, but as a battery collecting energy from the universe and radio signals, or whatever you want to call that, communication from the universe. Okay? So let's continue. Joanne says, I don't know. I'm not growing my beard. No, but you don't have to, right? That's my point. That's hilarious. I don't know. I'm not growing a beard. Laugh out loud. Oh my God, Joanne, you're hilarious. Right? That's funny. We don't have to do that. Don't go doing that, right? But if you were brand new, Joanne, you don't have that problem. You're very open and in tune. But if you were brand new as a little kid, chances are you would have long hair. Usually that's what cultures do. The young men and women have long hair, and men used to have a princely lock. It's only in the modern era when they get you to shave everything off. Why is that? They want you to shave everything off when you're young, because they're trying to slow down the process as long as they can of your own critical thinking for yourself, and your ascension to where you're expanding your consciousness. At every turn, they're aware of all of this, and they're doing everything to stifle you from the moment you're born until the moment you die. They're trying to stifle you from expanding your consciousness and learning how to get out of this place. Absolutely 127,000%. They're doing this. They're aware of it, and they're doing it to you on purpose. to make sure that you slow down that process as long as possible. And if they can solidify you in this matrix so that you never wake up, they will do that and hold you here indefinitely forever. And that's what they've been attempting to do. And it's worked until we got here. Okay. And now 86% of the population currently, and it's getting bigger, of this planet is not from this plane of existence, from a higher plane of existence, came back here, and we have now overwhelmed the system, and we have broken the system of their control, which was given to them by aliens. So they give a little bit of tell a little truth with many lies. Well, this is a penal colony set up by aliens. Not so, not true. The human genome, the human race, was invented by aliens. Not so, not true. Well, then how do you explain that we have 7 alien DNAs? Because we like this DNA mixed this way. We did this, not some alien race. Okay, the souls that are in human bodies created this, the creator of the universe. We like the human bipedal instrument, okay, and all of its versions that are out there. We like that, and we've toyed with it. 24% of the universe is a humanoid bipedal entity in third dimension, because we like it that much. But that should tell you something. That's only 24%. There's other things out there that are almost the same percentage. That there's many of them, like the gray aliens, by the way, is also a humanoid bipedal. It's just a different version of that, smaller, thinner, because it's space bound. Okay, so it's actually humanoid as well. The Draco, humanoid. Almost every race that you can imagine that people talk about, because the first part of the expansion of your consciousness into space or into the galactic ideology is all bipedal, humanoid, slightly variants of that. Okay, how many people do you know out there in the world right now that are saying I'm an Andromedan, I'm a Lyran, all of those are bipedal humanoids with slight variances. Some of them are aquatic, and so they have webbed fingers and toes and gills, but they also breathe air, so they can go in both. Some of those are cat-like, some of those are lizard-like, but they're still bipedal. They're still a humanoid. Okay? Why is that? Why is it that nobody is saying I'm a Jabba the Hutt, I'm a worm, I'm a praying mantis, I come from a race of Jello, I come from a race of carrot? Okay, why is that? Because nobody in 3D equates with a 3D entity that is not what they're used to. Just like whatever sex you are in this current lifetime, when you start ascending and start realizing past lives, you will see yourself as the same sex first. So if you're a man, you will see 2 or 3 or 4 lives as a man before you ever see a life as a woman. Because you have to expand your consciousness to the idea of that first of all. Then, wait a minute, I wasn't always a man. I was a woman sometimes. Okay? The same thing with the ascension of I'm not from Earth, I'm from another plane of existence or from another planet, and I'm in the human body, but I'm actually this alien. It's always a bipedal humanoid alien that you believe that you are. That's going to be the first thing that you're going to see until you expand your consciousness to real 5D, to real 4D and real 5D. Then you're going to see yourself not only as human, but as a female, if you're a male, or the opposite of whatever you are. Then you're going to see yourself as an alien, also in the same sex, then the opposite sex. Then you're going to see yourself, when you move up high enough, as transitioning into other things besides a humanoid in 3D. And then eventually you're going to start seeing yourself transitioning out of the 3D body completely and realizing that you are actually a light body, which is a spirit, which is energy. And some people can move directly from 3D here to that light body and the realization of the light body without having to worry about who was I in the past life, who was I on another planet before I got here, who was I before that. They just go from third dimensional plane to spiritual plane and see themselves as that energy. But not everybody can make that transition that starkly and that quickly. Okay, let's continue.
Or is there a minimal balance of the energy centers of the healer that is also necessary? Ra, I am Ra. Any entity may at any time instantaneously clear and balance its energy centers. Thus in many cases those normally quite blocked, weakened, and distorted may, through love and strength of will, become healers momentarily. To be a healer by nature one must indeed train itself in the disciplines of the personality. 75.36 Questioner. How does the use of the magical ritual of invoking the magical personality aid the mind/body/spirit complex totality? Could you expand on the answer you gave in the last session with respect to that? Ra, I am Ra. When the magical personality is properly and efficaciously invoked, the self has invoked its higher self. Thus a bridge betwixt space/time and time/space is made, and the sixth density magical personality experiences directly the third density catalyst for the duration of the working. It is most central to deliberately take off the magical personality after the working in order that the higher self resume its appropriate configuration as analog to the space/time mind/body/spirit. 75.37 Questioner.
Okay, before we start that, Celeste, welcome. I just saw that Celeste came in and said hello. Evening, everyone. Okay, so let's go to the next question here. Right, so think about what was just said there, right? Let's move on to the next question.
Then you are saying that the act, the signal, or the key for the invoking of the magical personality, which is the putting something on or a gesture, should be you should as carefully take that something off or reverse the gesture perhaps at the end of the invocation. Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. This is correct. It should be fastidiously accomplished either in mind or by gesture as well if this is of significant aid. 75.38 Questioner. Now the invocation of the magical personality is not necessarily effective for the neophyte. Is there a point at which there is a definite quantum change and that personality does then reside, or can it be done in small degrees or percentages of magical personality as the neophyte becomes more adept? Ra, I am Ra. The latter is correct. 75.39 Questioner. Then is it correct that a good sequence for developing the invocation of the magical personality are alternate meditations, first on power, then a meditation on love, and then a meditation on wisdom, and to continue cycling that way? Is that an appropriate technique? Ra, I am Ra. This is indeed an appropriate technique. In this particular group there is an additional aid in that each entity manifests one of these qualities in a manner which approaches the archetype.
Okay, so I wanted to stop there for obvious reasons. Okay, so doing that in what he was talking about and why he was asking, should we be doing that because those represent the archetypes, and you're balancing your chakras by doing that. So if you're doing a meditation about power and a meditation about love and a meditation about wisdom, those are three different chakras, three different archetypes. Okay, and then Ra just said, of the three of them, they are each representing an archetype of a chakra. Okay. So those of you who are part of the group of 7 that we're working with, you guys know what I'm talking about, because we're talking about that and the chakra and the archetype representation. And that's why I said I represent the throat chakra, the translation of and transmuting of knowledge from different places, different things to the people. That's why I do this, translating to you interpreting what Ra is talking about in a way that you guys can understand. And I do that one-on-one, not just with the law of one, but with individuals, life coaching and spiritual life coaching, to help you to ascend and to unlock the knowledge within you, whether you're in service to self or in service to others. But I don't normally usually help people that are in service to self, only those who are in service to others. Okay. So I wanted to stop there so that I could reiterate that Ra just said that Carla and the three of them that are channeling Ra are actually representing chakras, archetypes of personality that has to do with the ascension. Okay, let's continue.
Thusly, visualization may be personalized in much love and support within the group generated. 75.40 Questioner. Is the exercise of fire the best for the instrument, or is there anything better that we could do other than, of course, the things that you have already suggested to aid the instrument? Ra, I am Ra. Continue as you are at present. We cannot speak.
Right. So Joanne said, if I didn't see myself, I'm pretty sure that you were saying I, because it says, if you didn't see myself as a mermaid in a past life, I wouldn't have believed it possible. Right. So Joanne literally said, if I didn't see myself as a mermaid in a past life, I wouldn't have believed it. Right. Yeah. Right. Now that would have, we called them mermaids, but they were probably, well, it depends on where you were. But the ancients in the East called them the Naga. Right, not mermaids or merman, right, but Naga, which was basically the same. It was just a being that was part fish, part human or humanoid, right, in some way. But people like Octurans, there are some species of Octuran that are aquatic, but they don't have a fin for feet. They actually, but they're aquatic. They have gills and webbed fingers and toes to be able to swim, right? And some people remember themselves as that with the blue skin or the indigo colored skin. Some of them see themselves dark purple. It's just depends on the version of that and where and what planet they were on at the time, and whether they were on Arcturus or if they were on Orion or other places, the Pleiades, where the Arcturans had migrated to. Different planets give you different aspects, right? And they give you different colors too, depending on the color of the sun, depending on a lot of other factors of the air that you breathe, right? My voice sounds like this because of the perfect air that I breathe. In some places I have a high-pitched voice. In other places I would have a really low voice, depending on what the ratio, what other things were in there, because we have oxygen and helium. But if we didn't have helium and we had like, what is it, cadmium, which is kind of poisonous, but as a gas, it's not, I would have a different sounding voice. Or not helium, but nitrogen. Sorry. Or if we had helium, I would have a high pitched voice. When you take helium and inhale it, they have a beer now that has helium infused in it. I saw these guys online drink the beer, and when you do that, it gets into your endocrine system, and when you exhale, you're exhaling the fumes from and inhaling the fumes from is in your mouth. And so they drank this ale that was infused with helium, and then they started talking, and they couldn't do anything besides laugh after a few seconds because they all of a sudden you have this high-pitched voice. I don't know if you can get it in the United States. I think they were Americans. No, they weren't. They were Europeans. I think they were speaking German. I'm trying to remember, but I knew what language it was when I was listening to them talk, and I was laughing almost hysterically because they just took one gulp, and the next thing you know, they had this helium voice, and they were just laughing, having a blast, laughing at each other and trying to talk with his high-pitched voice. Okay, let's continue here.
Of the future as we may then affect it. But there is a great probability/possibility if you follow the path which you now tread that more efficacious methods for the entire group will be established. This instrument begins to...
I thought that Celeste said good spot to join. They're talking about invocation. I thought, why is it that Celeste, whenever you pop in, Raw is talking about magic and invocation? Weirdly, right? I thought that when I saw you and Raw went down that road, but I didn't say anything because I wasn't sure if you were aware of it. And you were like, look at that. That's hilarious, dude. Okay, let's continue. Because I saw it as soon as you got here and I knew where the questioning was going. I was like, wow, that's serendipitous. What are the odds that every time Celeste pops in, Raw's talking about almost every time talking about magic and invocation.
To show rapid distortion towards increase of pain. We, therefore, would offer time for any brief queries before we leave this working. 75.41 Questioner, is there anything that we can do to make the instrument more comfortable or improve the contact? Ra, I am Ra. You are conscientious. The alignments are well. I am Ra. I leave you, my friends, in the love and the light of the one infinite creator. Go forth, therefore, rejoicing in the power and peace of the one infinite creator. Adonai.
Okay, let me go ahead and unshare this one and start sharing the next one. Let me close this and I'll open up the next one here, the next session, and we'll go ahead and I'll pop that up on here and we'll share it. Let me get it up here, loaded, and I will share it here, and then we'll just start the next session. Okay, so let me hit present and pop that up on the screen, and then put myself back into full screen and go ahead and start the next session. Okay.
February 3rd, 1982. 76.0 Ra. I am Ra. I greet you in the love and in the light of the one infinite creator. We communicate now. 76.1 Questioner. Could you first please give me an indication of the condition of the instrument? Ra. I am Ra. This instrument is in a state of physical complex bankruptcy which has existed for some of the measure you call time. The vital energies are normal with a strong spiritual complex counterpart and will lending substance to the mind/body/spirit complex energy levels. 76.2 Questioner. Will our continued communication with Ra be deleterious to the physical energies of the instrument? Ra. I am Ra. We may answer in two modes. Firstly, if the instrument were thusly dedicated.
Well, I think I'm going to have to go. It looks like my mom needs to get up and go and get in the shower, guys. So before she does something drastic in her pants, I better get her up and go and get her in the shower. All right. So I love you guys. I'll see you guys next week. Okay. You guys have a good night.